Good evening and welcome to another live YouTube edition of the Magpie Circle. Another playoff special tonight as we look ahead to Wrexham, and we will be working out all the computations, permutations, feeding them into the Magpie Circle computer and predicting what is going to happen come the final Saturday of the season, which actually is only, by my reckoning, 12 days away, and we will then know whether we will be in the playoffs or not. Two excellent guests tonight. Mark Stallard, always a delight to have you on, Mark. Ensures a bumper audience, and you have shot to even greater fame after that great quote when you were last on the show, saying it was only nine straight wins and we'll be in the Football League. Great quote.
I'm wrong, aren't I? They dropped 2 points, so 8 wins and a draw.
We'll all check that. Delighted to have you on board. Welcome back to Beth. You've been away for a couple of weeks. Delighted to have you again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on again.
Okay, we'll be going to your messages in a moment. Plenty of those already coming in. But on the show tonight, what we're going to do, we're going to have a look. There are effectively 6 teams going for 3 relegation places in order: Wrexham, Notts County, Chesterfield, Bromley, Halifax and Eastleigh. We've got all the fixtures, and all 3 of our panelists tonight are going to go through win, lose or draw for those games, and let's see where we think we are going to end up. Feel free, I posted it on some of the Facebook forums, feel free to have a stab yourself and see where you think we're going to end up. So very much the focus tonight on the playoff race and the trip to Wrexham tomorrow. We did have an announcement last week about one young player from our league-winning team being retained. The others, sadly, are being released. I want to talk about that another time. I know that 1 or 2 parents of those youngsters have quite strong views. They are welcome to come on to our show. Not this week. I want to focus on the playoffs, but in a future week, we will focus and concentrate and have a considered study on the youth development program at Notts. So that's one for the future. Interesting press conference with Ian Burchnall today, talking about plans for strengthening his squad, both in terms of a National League scenario and a Football League scenario from Lee Curtis. Lee will be our guest on the show on Wednesday, and we'll take a little bit more in-depth look at that. News from the club today: complete sellout, 4,400, and we're now trying to see how many more we can squeeze in. I know quite a few of you are on a waiting list. Great news, it's going to be, I was going to say a capacity crowd, which is clearly a bit misleading, but the maximum permissible crowd allowed in Meadow Lane on Saturday when we welcome Weymouth to Meadow Lane. Few observations before we go to Mark. Right, let's get rid of the trolls out of the way for the start. Pythagorean is quoting some idiot called ITK, saying that Ruben Rodrigues is expected to leave at official NCFC in the summer, with officially Dale, I presume he means Rochdale, does he, being the likely destination for the midfielder. Let's just nail that one. Complete and utter cobblers. ITK, if you've got a moral backbone in your body, you come and introduce yourself on the show tonight under your real name. I know and you know all the stuff you spout is complete and utter rubbish. Pythagorean, regular viewer of the show, you should know better than to start repeating, quoting him. Absolute rubbish. Ian Burchnall, the fan, not the gaffer. Evening all, another good performance Saturday, albeit not the win we would have liked. Can't fault Bromley's tactics, but do wonder if they will do the same at home against us in front of a crowd. Jurgen Halligan, just talking about contracts. But right, Snell, firstly, they messed up your 9 straight wins, but got to say, probably one of the best games I have seen competitive-wise at Meadow Lane for a long time. I presume it was even better seeing it in the flesh than watching it on the stream.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, good to see any game in the flesh after watching a fair few on the stream, but it was a really good game. It was a proper game. It was a good quality game. You know, frustrated with the 3 points, of course, but it was a really good game. Two decent teams, good football being played, some really quality football for the National League. You know, when we go up and down, watch week in, week out, that is as high a quality game as I've seen from both teams probably this season. And I'm sure that came across the screen. It had chances, goals, near misses, woodwork rattled, some real good quality football, and both teams not giving an inch. And that's exactly how you want to see it, game.
Beth, what did you think?
Amazing game to watch. Definitely came across as out of the stream. I think everyone will agree. It was, like you said, one of the better games competitive wise I've seen for a very long time. Right up there, I thought. Formation good. The subs that came on good. Everyone gave it their all. Good passing. Just everything about it was good. It was unlucky we didn't get the 3 points. I think we did deserve it, to be fair. Hit the woodwork twice. A couple of near misses, and I want to say especially people like O'Brien. I'm happy. He's always been a very valuable player off the ball as well. He's finally being recognised more. And with the likes of Rodrigues up there as well and Miller, I think we've really got more players playing consistently well now, and it's really exciting to see. Yeah.
I have to say, Stell, I thought when Bromley got the first goal, I didn't see us coming back second half. I thought that was a great test of character to create the chances that we did, to take the goals that we did against. One thing about Bromley, they're very athletic, they're very organised, they're very structured, and you don't want to go one goal down to them, do you?
No, you didn't want to. It wasn't ideal. But that said, Notts played well first half up to the final, the penalty area. The last final ball. They kept the ball really well. They moved it well. We're just a little bit passive when it got around Bromley's penalty area. I think we had Jim O'Brien in the first minute, and Jim O'Brien's header after about half an hour, 40 minutes, were about the only two efforts we actually had on goal. So yeah, going in one down quite easily, could have thought, well, this is going to be tough. They were well organised, Bromley. They worked hard, and they pose a threat. They've got the leading scorer in the division. But they came out second half, and they were magnificent second half. Right from the get-go, right from the kick-off, just got on the front foot. And you can do that because sometimes when you're behind, that makes your mind up. You have to go for it. It takes any doubt out of the equation. But they got on the front foot, and they got their rewards, and they got them quickly. And when they got level, they didn't then sit back and think, well, this is all right. We'll have 10 minutes, just respite and see where we're at. They kept going. And to get in front, the Jim O'Brien shot, if that goes in 2-1, it's a different game completely into a different result. You look back and it goes, just frustrating that they conceded a sloppy second goal again. Just lack of communication in the penalty area. The old Achilles heel, cross ball into the penalty area, big gap, wide open gap between Mark Ellis and Adam Chickson. No midfielder tracking the runner, and the guy puts it in off his shoulder. And frustrating that gets Bromley a point, because on the day Notts were fantastic and deserved all three.
A few more comments. We actually get joined by a regular fan from Sutton called Bellum. And he's talking to us about what he thinks about the promotion automatic place, which is clearly a two-horse race between Sutton and Torquay. Before we go into our kind of big playoff debate, who do you see, Sutton or Torquay, as winning the league, Beth?
Sutton by a point, I've got down.
Right, go on.
That's just my gut feeling. I've got everything down here to hand. I've just got a good feeling. They're the players and their attacking threat that they have. I just think the run that they're on. That's just my gut feeling.
Stell, normally when you have what would be considered to be an established league club, I know they dropped out a few years ago, and a club that's never been in the top flight before. I'm thinking Harrogate Notts County in the playoff final last year. Normally, most neutrals would go for the bigger club, wouldn't they? I thought Torquay would have pulled away by now, but it's still advantage Sutton, and they have the better fixtures of the last two games as well, don't they?
They've got Hartlepool, haven't they? That's going to be tough. I forget who they got the final game. I've got Sutton winning. I agree with Beth. I've got Sutton winning the league, and I think rightly so. I think I've said before to you, Paul, I think they're the team that has had the consistency this season. They have always been there or thereabouts, that 2 points per game level where you know you need to be right at the top end of the table. And they very rarely faltered or fell away from that. They've never got too far ahead of it, but they've never got behind it too much either. Whereas Torquay, you know, had a flyer and then had a quiet spell and then came good again, or have come good again. But I think just a little bit too late. There's a 3-point gap, you know, and the goal difference as well. I think Sutton's is 6 goals better. So realistically, you'd probably say 1 win would get them there, but 4 points will definitely do it.
Ballum, volunteer to dig up that plastic pitch you've got down there in Sutton, so you can play Football League action. That seemed to be the consensus from our panel. Colin Metcalf says, from disappointed expectation of mid-table to being excited again. The hope, the nerves, the dreams are all back. If we win tomorrow, the reception for the team on Saturday will be massive. Can't wait. A few more comments coming in as well. Jurgen Halligan says, take draw tomorrow, win Saturday and draw at Bromley should be enough. We'll be analysing that in a little bit more detail. Nigel Cameron, all good, and we should have achieved the playoffs, but an inability to keep clean sheets will be our downfall. And let's face facts, playing one centre-half doesn't work. We'll pick up on that in a moment, Mark. John Parr, whoever wins tomorrow will be in playoffs. Big game, but fancy Notts to win. Gary Smithhurst, I wasn't too impressed by Wrexham when they came to Meadow Lane. After the first 5 minutes, when they could have been about 3-0. Does that 1-0 win give a slight edge going into the game tomorrow, particularly as we are playing much better now than then? James Spring, reckon us and Wrexham is an interesting one. Would both happily shake hands on a draw tomorrow night. Pressure will be all on us on Saturday against a Weymouth side with note to lose. Call me cynical, but not confident. Gary Smith, Sutton front four were particularly impressive. Strong pacing, direct will cause all teams problems. Nick G, anybody know if fans can attend the playoff quarters and semis? In answer to your question, Nick, the answer for Notts is certainly yes. The answer for all the teams in England is yes, if you are at home. No away fans. Fans will be allowed into home. It's slightly more complicated if you're a Wrexham fan, because Wales comes under a slightly different set of rules than England does. So I think that's TBC. Ian Burchnall agrees with Stell and Beth. I believe Sutton for the title. Interesting team selection, and it's kind of the one that the result completely justifies the means, doesn't it all, Stell? No Ben Turner Saturday. Went with one, inverted commas, recognised centre half with Mark Ellis. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm not one for changing my mind after the event. So I said before the game, I thought he went with a positive team selection. And the reason being, the sort of tactical reason would be that if you play a back three, you want your two wider centre halves, the right-hand side and the left-hand side, to be able to step out, to be able to accept the ball and be able to play with it, and also to step to midfield and commit the opposition and try and create space there by becoming the extra man. So that's why I assume he went with Richard Brindley. Now then, people go, well, after the event, did it work? At half time, I was questioning whether he might, because of the aerial threat that Bromley were offering, he might want to look to change it and try and bring Ben Turner on to address that. He could have gone to a 4 or stayed as a 5. I don't think Ben Turner is the man you want as a left-hand sided centre half, but for that additional height alongside Mark Ellis, I thought he could have jiggled it around that way. But like I've just mentioned, they came out and they were fantastic in the second half. Just that one lapse, really, for the goal. So, look, after the event, we can all go, well, if Ben Turner had been in there, he'd have headed it away, or Conor Rawlinson, but he wasn't fit, he'd have headed it away. There's no saying, ifs, buts and maybes, that they wouldn't make the same mistake, that the same positioning errors wouldn't have happened, the same decision-making errors wouldn't have happened, and maybe wouldn't have had enough, had as much on the ball when Notts were in possession of it, which they dominated a decent possession of that, chunk of that possession. So, look, I agree. It's a talking point, of course it is. But I think before the game, I said it was a positive decision, and I don't think we can point at that and say no, it went wrong. And it was a really good performance. So, you know, it's just one of them things. Again, it's just that Achilles heel of conceding from crosses.
Beth, your thoughts?
Very much agree. We can say in hindsight can't be anything, but like Stallard said, you know, we can't guess that it couldn't have gone any different. It could have gone worse. You never know what happens in a game, 90 minutes. It would have been nice to have him as a backup, maybe like Mark said, you know, the bit of height there, and I think that we did, you know, that was part of it, definitely the lack of height in the box for the second goal, especially. A couple of moments we switched off, but you know, again, it's hindsight. It's like Mark said, it's definitely a talking point. Yeah,
it's possibly difficult to see Ben coming in again, because if Ben doesn't play in that game of all games against Bromley, when ideally you would think his skill set is most suited to combating Bromley, I guess it really emphasises the importance of getting Conor Rawlinson back in. He was doing the stream on Saturday, Stell, and I think, you know, the inference was it was touch and go for Wrexham, but he would definitely want to be back for Saturday against Weymouth. So I guess that will be an interesting team selection tomorrow evening.
Absolutely, they're all interesting, aren't they? Now, when you're winning as well, when things are going well, you'll find, like we've been speaking about, there won't be as many changes as there are obviously when results aren't going your way. And I said it before, I think when we spoke last, Paul, before, you know, the 3 games that we've just had, nobody still knows what Ian Burchnall's preferred formation is. So whether this back 5 is as a result of, you know, what was in the building at the time and you know, continue as it is, whether he sees that as the best given what he sees in front of him, but when he gets his own players in, does he go to a 4? You know, time will tell with that. But it certainly worked well. Like I say, it certainly worked well with the ball. We've dominated possession in recent games. But again, it comes back, and I'm sure Beth will back this up, it comes back to, ultimately, to players playing better, passing and controlling the ball better, giving better options off the ball to the man or person on the ball, and working hard when you're out of possession of the ball. You know, it's formations, you know, everyone loves to talk about them because, again, we can all get involved in the tactics, what's right, what's wrong. But if you play any formation and play it badly, you know, if you can't pass and control the ball, you'll get beat. And if you play it well and pass and control the ball and move well, you'll win a lot of games. So it's an interesting one. Ben Turner, yeah, I agree with you. I don't see an easy way into the team for him because he likes Adam Chickson on that left-hand side of the 3 for the reasons we've just mentioned. Richard Brinley didn't do anything wrong particularly defensively. So it's an interesting one. He's got options, and that's the beauty of the squad size that Notts have got. They have got real legitimate options.
One of the things that Neil Ardley got pelters for in many respects, Beth, was, you know, there was a view among a section of Notts fans. You cannot play Doyle, Reeves, O'Brien all together. They're too similar. They've not got the legs, etc., etc., etc. Yet part of this sequence of results that has been put together under Notts has been with that axis of those 3 players all playing. Discuss.
absolutely. I have always been a big fan, particularly of Doyle and O'Brien. I think O'Brien is a player that has often been undervalued by some, with especially the work he does off the ball. And I think it's really, really coming to light now, actually, how much work he does, even when he's not on the ball. He runs his socks off every single game. I wouldn't be surprised if his running stats are up there with, you know, with the most, up there with Doyle. And, you know, even with the stats that came out recently about Doyle's final third passing, and his pass success rate is ridiculously high. It always has been. He may misplace a few passes, as does everyone. That is football. But he's a fantastic player. He commands on the pitch, clearly off the pitch as well. I think that's one of the biggest moves and positive moves we've done, by the way. Doyle stepping up with Burchnall. I think that's working really well. I think the players respect him. I think the opposition respect him. I think everyone knows he's a fantastic player. And a few contradicting points about Reeves, but as a 3, it's working. We're winning. We went on the streak before. We're on the streak now, and I've noticed actually the lack of nasty or bad points about them, whereas under Ardley there were definitely more, like you said, more conflicting opinions about them. But I think they're pulling out the bag at the right time when they needed to, and they're a huge part of what's going on right now, and I really respect them all for it, and the experience has come into play. So
Jurgen Halligan says Doyle player of the season for me. Pythagorean says the axis of Doyle, Reeves and JOB better shape now. Ruben playing the 10 role, key factor for the team playing better. I tell you what I find interesting, Mark. Beth was talking there about the contributions of the midfield players, talking about their stats, talking about percentages of pass rates and all those sorts of things. There is no right and wrong, but the way Beth talks and looks at the game is undoubtedly now shared more by the younger generation, the younger coach. Because to me, I can honestly say I have never looked at a single stat of a player and viewed it in terms of pass completion rate or that kind of analysis. And that isn't wrong, Beth. Honestly, it's not wrong. It's just interesting how you talk about it in those terms. I would never look at it in those. I'm the oldest of the 3 of us, I think. Your thoughts on that, Mark?
Well, it's the way the game's gone, hasn't it? It's analysis is as in-depth as it's ever been. It's probably going to get even deeper. So all these stats are available, whereas they weren't available 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Things like that. Being probably good for me. Stats on
what your running stats have been like. High intensity runs too.
Oh, yeah, for my career. Yeah, so you can be hung by stats as well, and stats tell you a lot. Stats tell you a lot, but they don't tell the whole picture. It's like everything. You've got to have a mix of everything. You've got to use the stats and the analysis and that with the what I'm going to call it, the proof of your own eyes, if you like. Somebody could stand in the middle of the midfield or centre half and have 100% pass completion, and you think, what a player he must be. And he's just passing it sideways and back to the goalkeeper and never tries anything else. So, stats can be interpreted however you want them to be. But they do give an impression. They do give an impression on players. And talking about that midfield 3, and Beth's saying it's right. There's less criticism, obviously, because Notts are now winning, but it's the same midfield 3. I think Jake Reeves got a bit of stick at points. And this is Charlie telling me this because, like I said, I don't keep too much of an eye on social media. But because he was seen as one of Ardley's, if you like, had him at Wimbledon before. He was one of Ardley's. He wouldn't drop him. And when things are going bad, he needed dropping. People wanted him out of the team. But now you see Ian Burchnall's coming, and he's not had pure success. It's been, a sticky start, and now we've had an upturn in the recent games. But all throughout that, he's picked Jake Reeves. So he obviously sees a player there that does something for the team that not just a manager that knows him likes, the new manager who has no affinity with him whatsoever, no previous, he likes as well. And it's largely that thing of that midfield 3 in the way that Notts play, whether that's under Neil Ardley and Ian Burchnall, which, believe me, isn't massively different. This isn't night and day styles of football. It's passing, possession football. It has been all season. When they're winning, and at the minute, they're doing it miles better than they were 6 weeks ago. But that midfield 3 have the ball so often and recycle the ball that they're on their touch stats. And again, this is where you come back to stats. The amount of times they're on the ball and the amount of times they retain possession of the ball must be phenomenal and up there with any team in this division. And that's something I did see something today on social media where somebody put, it's all about what happens in both boxes. But for the midfield players, how does the ball get from one box to the other? Does it just miraculously wander its way up there? It doesn't. You need a midfield to recycle it, to switch the play, to link the back to the front. And we have a history in this country, particularly at the top end, of midfield players who don't get the credit that they actually deserve for the job that they do until maybe latter stages. I'm thinking of players like Michael Carrick. I'm thinking Jordan Henderson at this moment in time, just starting to get the credit. But people 2 seasons ago, going, what's he actually do? James Milner's been another one where they don't do anything that you can put on an Instagram 30-second video or whatever it might be. So people perceive them as, well, they don't really do much. But they're absolutely vital cogs in a machine. But what you've then got to have a bit of quality on the outside to do the special bits, like a Ruben Rodrigues or an Enzio or somebody like that. A player that can do that little bit of magic.
Very good. I'll give you a little story about Michael Appleton and stats in a minute when I was talking to him. But I've just got to mention that this is unquestionably the observation, not a tweet, but message of the night on our board so far from NCFC Pie, hoping to see a Sam Slocum last-minute header to win it tomorrow night. Right. If it's a draw, if it's 1-1 in the 94th minute and you're Ian Burchnall, Beth, do you send Sam Slocum up the pitch and you've got a corner?
I mean, if he's got any belief in him, like Alisson, then potentially, and maybe a wonder goal can come from it. But yeah, it was a beautiful header, and I think that'd just top it off, wouldn't it? But could you imagine?
Great header, to be fair.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Just finishing off on the stats thing, because I think it is interesting. I was talking to Michael Appleton when he almost became Notts County manager, but that's another story we'll save for another time. And I was talking to Michael we had about a 2-hour chat, and we were talking this exact conversation about his importance on stats and all the rest of it, and GPS tracking systems, because you probably noticed the players when they come off as subs, the sports science guy pulls out like a little tab out of the back of the shirt that's built into like a small vest, Stat Sports. I'm sure you have them, Beth. And they pull that out, they plug that into a laptop, and that instantly gives out all the stats of the player, from how far he's run, the level of intensity of the run, and all the rest of it. And it's just done at the click of a button. And I was talking with Michael about this, and I was going, yeah, but can you not tell watching a player as to whether he's been trying hard or not and has been covering the ground? He says, well, yeah, I can. He said, but if I've got the stats and I say to a player, you've not been running hard enough, he says, without the stats, the player will disagree with me. He'll say, I did. With the stats, he's got nowhere to go. It's just interesting.
Paul, just on that as well, and that is right, on the running based stats, I think absolutely. What I think can happen as well, and again, I played before stats, and the stats were sort of coming into it and analysis and all that. The one thing I say, it can have a negative, and I don't know whether, Beth, I don't know whether you have these sort of levels of analysis and stats where you play, but I also think the passing stats have led to a lot of unnecessary passes to a teammate. So they turn down a difficult ball because if stats get thrown at you and you go, oh, your stats from Saturday's game were 60% pass completion, you give the ball away too much. Them stats don't tell you what sort of passes they were for starters. I know they get the heat map sort of thing of where the passes went. But I think then that can get in a player's mind to go, well, do you know what? We get stats thrown at us. I'll just knock a couple of 4-yard passes, 3 and 4 backwards and forwards, going absolutely nowhere, doing absolutely nothing. But they're all 100%, well, they're pass completion. And I think that can lead to it. So I think managers have to be careful how they apply the stats that they've got.
Okay, Beth, have you ever played to preserve your pass completion percentages? Does that ever cross your mind?
As a midfielder, when I'm on the pitch, I don't sit there and think, "Oh, hang on, like I'm down to 80% now." It's something being a young player and stats heavy in clubs. I do think about and I do get spoken to about when I first signed actually in Bulgaria. The very first day, the manager sat me down and said, my midfielders need to have 90% at least pass completion rate. So that was a pressure from the beginning. And Mark's point is actually a very good one, because, you know, when I first came in and I first went into those training sessions, I was passing back too much. And it was in my head, these stats initially to cement my place in the team. So I definitely agree that stats can have that opposite effect. On the point of the Stat Sports vest, I do actually have one myself. I used one yesterday for my game, actually. And they're incredibly helpful. They're very much based on running stats only. So you have the sprint distance, sprint speed, sprint time. You have all your PBs. So you're very right in that it's very, very obvious. Two managers and two people looking at the stats that a player hasn't reached those personal bests or is well under. You know, it tracks absolutely everything in terms of distance and runs covered. So they are incredibly helpful.
Interesting. Right, I can see one or two people's getting itchy feet now. They want us to run down these fixtures, because one or two people have been sending in their thoughts and views on results. Neil Holmes: draw v Wrexham, win v Weymouth 5-0 in brackets, and lose to Bromley 2-1. Hopefully 4 points is enough to just squeeze into the playoffs. Okay, and also you may be able to just help us on this one, Mark. Nick G says, it was great to see Colin Slater, Uncle Colin, in the crowd last week, and would be great for him to see Notts back in the Football League. Social distancing wise, are you able to get anywhere near Colin on a match day or not?
No, I'm not, unfortunately. Yeah, I saw him there as well, on the balcony again, what was the weekend. But no, because of distancing, obviously with my obligation on the radio and that, I'm not sort of roaming around sort of during the game. Obviously, I'm commentating. So, yeah, unfortunately, I've not had a chance to speak to him. But, you know, he was there. Good to see him again. And hopefully soon, with these restrictions lifting, then I'll get to have a good chat with him sooner rather than later.
Okay. Right. Let's have a look then at the 6 teams vying for 3 playoff. Oh, blimey. It all went blank for a minute. I don't know whether it went blank with you, but anyway, we're back now. We're back. Horror. It's never happened before. Okay. So 6 teams competing for 3 playoff spots. We're working on the basis here that Hartlepool have got 4th. So 5th, 6th and 7th. Wrexham and Notts both on 64 at the minute. Chesterfield, Bromley on 63. Halifax on 62. Eastleigh on 59, but with a game in hand on Wrexham and Notts, and 2 on Chesterfield, Bromley and Halifax. Okay, so what we're going to do, and we've shared these fixtures with our panelists beforehand. We're going to compute. It would help, of course, if I'd put Notts down on 64 points rather than 63 in my internal memo, but spotters badge to Mr. Stallard, so we've corrected that. So, Wrexham currently on 64 points, guys. 3 games. So, we're going to go win, lose or draw through these fixtures. So, Wrexham v Notts County tomorrow. Stel, what are Wrexham going to do?
Well, you said about computing it. I think I had Wrexham down as drawing and Notts down as winning when I did this. So
I was going to say you've got to be consistent. By the way, where 2 teams play.
Yeah, I try my best to get Notts as high up the league as possible. Tough game, as I mentioned before the other week. I think this is the toughest game of the now 3 we've got left, and both teams will know what's at stake, and both teams will know. When you talk about must-win games, I don't think either will want to lose it either. That's not almost as important, because you go into every game wanting to win it. But you know, you can get to that point as the game goes on. You can get to that point where teams are not going to take too much of a chance because they don't want to lose it, don't want to give the opposition a hand. Because you would say rightly, I would think, whoever wins tomorrow pretty much secures a playoff place, given the remaining fixtures and what have you. So there's a massive, you know, carrot for a winner, but also there's a little bit of a precipice if you get beat, because then you look behind you and see the chasing pack are right on your heels. So with that in mind, sitting firmly on the fence, I've gone for a draw.
You've gone for a draw. Okay. Beth?
I've gone for a Wrexham loss. I think we're going to win. I'd like to point out as well, following on from Mark's point, I think with our current form and knowing other teams knowing how we can already play and how we're at our best, I think teams are going to be coming to us and playing us, and they're going to be worried about us and our form, I think, more than we are about them, in my opinion. I think, Wrexham lost against us.
That is a point that resonates, I think, a lot among fans. And we've had several messages tonight where fans talk about Neil would speak, in their view, quite a lot about the opposition. Ian is much more focused on how Notts County perform. I've gone for a Wrexham loss as well. So Wrexham's next game is Kings Lynn at home. Stal?
Wrexham Kings Lynn, was only one winner there. I think Wrexham will win that.
Yeah. Beth?
Win.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. Wrexham's last game, probably against a team with the best run of form in the division. I think it's like 5 wins and they drew the last one. Dagenham and Redbridge under Daryl McMahon. Wrexham go down to London for that last game, Stout.
Yeah, they've won 7 out of the last 8, Dagenham.
I bow to your better knowledge of stats.
That said, I think by then Dagenham will be out of the playoff race because of teams picking up points elsewhere. Yeah. So I've got it down as a draw for myself, because I think Dagenham, although they're in form, I think Wrexham will go there. Obviously, that could change depending on what Wrexham need final day, if they need anything. But I've got it down as a draw, taking Wrexham to 69 points.
Beth?
Draw as well, I've got it down for.
Yeah, clean sweep. I've gone for draw as well. That's Wrexham. We'll come to the tallies in a minute. Notts' games. So Wrexham, we obviously all stick with what we said before. Okay, you can't claim a draw for Wrexham and then we'll beat them under our column. So Weymouth at home. Already sold all our tickets. Trying to get a few more people in. Home to Weymouth. Stel?
Win. Simple as that. Win. And I'm not saying it's going to be simple. Of course, it isn't. No game is. But look, if we want to get in the playoffs, you've got to be winning them games. So yeah, home win in front of fans, which should be a fantastic occasion.
Beth? Big win. I can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah, win for me. And this is a tough one, I think, because Bromley were very good against us. So our last game is Bromley away. Synthetic pitch, whether that makes a difference or not, I don't know. What's your take on that game, Stel?
Right, I've got Notts winning.
Ooh.
And I'll tell you the reason why. I think it'll be a tough game. We saw what a good team they can be at Meadow Lane, so you'd fancy them at home to be even stronger. But I think prior to when we played them the other day, I think whatever happened, you had to treat that like a 2-legged match. As long as Notts came out matching points, so 2 draws or a win and a defeat, either way, Notts would remain 1 point ahead of Bromley in the table. So, that means we should win a Weymouth game. They should win their, who's the other one, Aldershot game, and we stay above them in the table. So it's vital that we do that. But I just think Bromley, on the last day of the season, will need to win. A draw, I don't think, will be enough for them. And I think that plays right into Notts' hands.
Okay, Beth?
I've got a draw down. I think it's going to be a tough one. No fans, home fans. I think that enables my prediction of 2 wins and a draw to have 7 out of 9 points, and we'll be safe.
I've gone for a draw as well. 2-2, 97th minute, headed equaliser from Slocum.
Missed Slocum.
Of course, that one came up, blimey. Right, Chesterfield. So most of these have got 2 games left. So Chesterfield's next game is coming Saturday. Home to Dagenham. Could do no wrong 4 or 5 weeks ago, Stel. They've kind of slipped back from the massive run that they were on. And I think it was a big surprise, only 0-0 against Wealdstone. Was it at home Saturday?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so again, right down to the nitty-gritty time of the season, But I've got them down as winning. I've got them down as beating Dagenham. Although Dagenham are the banging form team, again, Dagenham have got to go there to win the game.
Dagenham have to win that game, don't they? For any chance.
Absolutely, it's an absolute minute chance, but they've got to go and win the game. So they'll go out and attack. I think Chesterfield with Danny Rowe got off the mark, opened his account into the other day, the game before Wealdstone, I think it was. I see Chesterfield winning it when they need to.
Okay, Beth.
Exactly the same. Got a win down for them. I just agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gone for a draw. I just think, however minute, I think Darrell will have them saying, "Look, just finish the season on a high while there's still a chance." It of course, erodes immediately 3 points into one of the teams they would have to oversee. I'm not sure they'll win, but I don't fancy Chesterfield to win that one. Their last game, Chesterfield, away at Halifax.
I've got another Chesterfield win. I've got them winning the last 2 games. I'll tell you what, if they do draw with Dagenham, that'd be a decent result for Notts and the other teams in the playoffs. So hopefully that comes true. But I've got them winning the last 2. I think Halifax have gone off the boil, 4 defeats in the last 6. So yeah, I've got Chesterfield winning the last 2, putting them on 69 points.
Okay, Beth.
I've got that as a draw.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Got a feeling. Got a gut feeling. Last game of the season, I've got Chesterfield eventually on 6-7.
Nothing wrong with a gut feeling. Often the best way to go. I've gone for Chesterfield to win at Halifax. Like you, Stel, I think Halifax have well and truly blown up now. We'll come on to Halifax's other game in a moment when we look at their fixtures. So I've gone for a Chesterfield win at Halifax. Okay, Bromley. So 2 games to go. Their first game is away at Aldershot. What do we think there?
Tricky game because Aldershot are one of them hit and miss teams. On their day, they can be really good, and other times, obviously not so. The league table will tell you that. But I've got them winning. I think they'll need to win, and I think they will win.
Yeah. Beth?
Win as well. Gone down for.
Win, yeah. I mean, I've got to say, from the 90 minutes they played against us, that's one of the best teams we've seen play against us this season. It's one of the best teams, and the manager Andy Woodman has certainly got them playing, and has got them playing to a system as well, hasn't he? Everybody knows their jobs. Last game against Notts, we've already done it, so you can't change your mind from whatever we predicted for Notts at Bromley. Clearly is going to be the same. Halifax, 2 games. So their next game is Maidenhead away, Stel.
Yeah, I've got them winning that. From what I saw in Maidenhead, when Notts played them as good as Notts were, I didn't see too much fight from Maidenhead. They didn't have Barrett up front, obviously, so I don't know if he's back or whatever. But I think they'll probably go there and win the game. I'm not sure Maidenhead have got anything they certainly haven't got anything to play for, and I didn't see too much fight from them the other night.
Okay, Beth.
I've got another draw. I think they're going to do 2 draws.
Okay. Well, it's very rare me and Stells disagree on these predictions. In fact, it's like brothers. I've gone completely the opposite end. I have gone for Maidenhead to win that. I just think Halifax have shot it, but we shall see. And then we've already, of course, done Halifax's home game against Chesterfield, so we can't change our minds. Then we go on to Eastleigh. 4 games to play. They're a bit further back on 59. So their next game is away to Aldershot. Stel?
I've got that down as a draw. Again, just one of those games where Aldershot are difficult. So hit and miss, but they're difficult on the day. I think that'll be a draw.
Beth?
I've gone down for a win for that one.
Okay, I've gone for an Eastleigh win as well. Boreham Wood at home, Stel.
I've got Eastleigh winning. Very good at home, Eastleigh.
Got feeling draw. I've got a draw down.
I've got a draw. Yeah, Boreham Wood draw a lot of games.
Yep.
Altrincham away, Stel.
But Eastleigh win. Eastleigh win.
Beth?
Win.
I've gone for a win as well. Altrincham look a bit like they're on the beach, don't they? Solihull Moors is their final game at home.
It's at home. I thought it was away, but I've got it down as away. Never mind. I've got it down as a draw. I've got them taking 8 points out of the last 4 games.
I've gone draw, 8 points as well.
Yeah, so have I. Right. As I'm the least important, we'll do this in reverse order. Okay. And I hope you've now tallied up where we all now finish as a result of your predictions. So in reverse order, I have got, hang on, it's 10th, isn't it? I've got Halifax in 10th. Okay, dropping completely out of it. No points from their last 2 games, staying on 62. I have then got, with my set of results, 3 teams all on 67 points. Chesterfield, Bromley, and Eastleigh, all on 67. And if you're going to base this on goal difference, I think Bromley are the ones that potentially lose out here. And you have Eastleigh and Chesterfield above Bromley. On 68 points, I've got Wrexham, and I've got Notts on 71. So I've got Notts finishing in 5th, Wrexham 6th, a blanket finish for 7th, which on the various goal differences, I'm going to go for Chesterfield. Okay, Beth?
I am exactly the same with the same points. Got Notts 5th, 71, 6th Wrexham. Oh no, 6th Wrexham 68, 7th Chesterfield 67, and the same as Eastleigh and Bromley, but doing well on goal difference.
Right, so you've got Chesterfield finishing with an extra point. No?
5. I've got 5th Notts, 6th Wrexham, 7th Chesterfield, 8th Eastleigh, and 9th Bromley.
Right, okay. So we've got Wrexham, Notts, and Chesterfield filling the 3 remaining playoff places. Stel, come on, yours is the expert the real expert.
It's very similar. Yeah, very, very similar. I've got Notts 5th, 71. Wrexham 6th, 69. So Notts at home to Wrexham in the playoffs. Chesterfield 7th on 69, but 7th on goal difference behind Wrexham. And then I've got Eastleigh just missing out, 67 in 8th. Bromley 66 in 9th, and Halifax 65 in 10th.
Yeah,
I mean, the chances of that being right are absolutely minimal, of course. But
I mean, and clearly, as someone's already mentioned on the message board, the Wrexham Notts game itself is hugely pivotal because, as you said earlier, very correctly, Mark, if either team wins tomorrow, you're probably 80% of the job done of getting a playoff berth.
Yeah.
A draw, it's still very much in the melting pot. And if you lose, all of those kind of permutations go right out of the window, because whereas we've got Notts on 71, Wrexham will then be saying, right, we're bankers to get 71 points. So it's massively pivotal. It's interesting there. We're all agreed Bromley, very good team. But no one's saying they will make the playoffs.
Yeah, but that's because we're saying Notts are going to do them.
Yeah, no.
So that's the reason why. Yeah, if it's look, like you say as well, because it's a great game to play on paper, but because this happens over time. So the game tomorrow, after tomorrow, everyone else will know as well what they need in terms of results and games coming up. So it changes game by game when you're in the running, particularly for the playoffs when there's so many clubs involved in it. It changes your mindset, your outlook, and the way you go about a game as well. It can really alter that. As we sat here now, Dagenham and Redbridge have got a 1,000,000 to 1 outside chance of getting in, but they are the form team. They'll believe. But after tomorrow night or after Saturday, they might have no chance, and that might just curtail everything. Same with Halifax playing Chesterfield. There's so many what ifs, even though there's 2 or 3 games left for teams, that it can change. Well, say daily, but sort of from one game to the next.
Focusing on that Wrexham game, Stel, it was a televised game when they came down here. We could literally have been 3 down in 4 minutes when we played them down here. But we hung in there, got a great result. Wrexham then seemed to have a whole series just before that game and after that game of terrible luck with strikers being out. And kind of lots of people kind of just sort of wrote them off there and then, didn't they? Despite the Hollywood A-list investment and all the rest of it. But they've put a decent run of results together now, haven't they?
Yeah. It's a tough game. There's no two ways about it. And even without fans, the racecourse always seems to be a tough place to go. So, look, they're a decent team because they are where they are in the table. They're neck and neck with Notts. It's goal difference that's got them above Notts at this moment in time. Like I said before, neither team are going to want to lose the game. And of course, Notts are full of confidence. They went into the home game against them low, really, because we were not on a good run at all. And Wrexham, you could see, first 15 minutes, they felt the game was there for them. If they started brightly, which they did, they could turn Notts over. And by hook or by crook, Notts stayed firm, kept that clean sheet for just in the first 15 minutes, and slowly found their way into the game and ended up winning the game. And that was absolutely vital. You could see Wrexham's belief sort of dissipate as the game went on, and Notts grew into it. That happens in football. That's the psychology of a football match. But tomorrow is a different entity. Notts will be the one, I imagine, will want to go there like I've done in the last 3 games or so, and really get out the traps. Really do what they did first minute against Bromley. We're not even first 30 seconds. Calvin Miller makes 70 yards down the left-hand side, almost as if this is what's been getting us results and this is the way we're going to go about it. They've got to do the same tomorrow night. If they do that and get the noses in front, get a goal, then that could give them the confidence and they could go on. But as we saw at Meadow Lane, when you're on top, if you don't get your goals, the balance of the game can shift. So it's a real tight game, real tough one to call, as they all are. But I think tomorrow is a real nip and tuck one.
What do you reckon, Beth?
Completely agree. For me, it's a must not lose game. A draw is not catastrophic, but I've got it down for a win. I'm very confident. I think the confidence in the team at the moment is highest it's been for a very, very long time. You can even see that in the likes of Rodrigues and Miller transformations as those two in particular. Like Mark said, the dashing 70-yard run he did in the first 30 seconds is absolutely fantastic. And hopefully we can translate that and this confidence and positivity onto the pitch tomorrow. And it'd be lovely to get an early goal. But, like we've mentioned before, in recent weeks, if we've gone down, it looks unlikely that we're going to score. Now that switch is flipped a little bit. And I'm very confident that should we go down, that we are going to score. We look good going forward. We're creating the chances now. And I will never underestimate how good confidence is and mentality in football. It's at least 90% for me. So hopefully we take that into the game and we get a good win. Yeah.
You think that Notts would more than likely go for the throat then, Stell, rather than sitting back and saying just don't get beat, get a nil?
No, no chance. That sort of stuff happens at the top level, at the very top level, because players are good enough to do that. At this level, unfortunately, whatever you want to call it, not good enough to sit back. If you go with the mentality of sitting back and hoping to hold a team out for 90 minutes, you will get done. So no, and there's absolutely no reason why they would do that. I don't think Ian Burchnall is that sort of coach. I don't think on the run that they're on, you'd be sort of suicidal to go there and sort of go, well, let's not go and attack the game. Let's just sit back. So I don't see that happening at all. And I think while you've got momentum, you've got to try and use it in your favour and get out there as they have done previously. Start the game quick, attack the game. Don't be afraid of losing. That's what can sometimes cloud things in football and in sport in general. That fear of failure. Don't be afraid of losing. It's just another game. There'll be 2 more games after that. There'll be other chances, but go out and try and win the game.
Ian Burchnall thinks that Miller and Ruben will cause issues for Wrexham tomorrow. Wayne, think Notts had 68 shots in the last 4 games, got to keep attacking, take the game to Wrexham. Ian Burchnall again. You can just tidy this one up here and now, Stell. Are you allowed in tomorrow night? Are you going to be venturing across the border?
Yes, we absolutely are.
Yes, yeah.
I think Wrexham were one of the teams when Torquay boo hiss, didn't let us in. That Wrexham were straight on the phone, on the email to Charlie saying, we've got no such problems, we've got no such concerns, and you're welcome in our press book. So we will be there to cover it. Yeah.
Do you have many happy memories of Wrexham still, or when you played there when you played the league club then, weren't they?
Yeah. Scored a couple of times there, I think. Like I say, can't tell what my running stats were. They wouldn't be very good, but yeah, scored. Ironically, that's where when I was caretaker at Mansfield, we played Wrexham first game. Me and Adi Moses got the caretaker manager jobs. So we trained for about 2 days beforehand with the lads, trying to pick a team, whatever. And we went up there, we conceded after 2 minutes, and then again after about 12, we were 2-0 down after about 15 minutes, thinking, oh dear, what have we let ourselves in for here? We lost 2-1. But, difficult place to go, always, Wrexham. I don't know why, say it's superstition in football or whatever, but mainly because they're generally a hard to beat team, Wrexham.
Gary Smith says, saw Eastwood, I presume that would have been the era of Paul Cox, get a 0-0 draw there in the FA Cup, and then Eastwood did them in the replay. Our star guest interview this week on Thursday actually is with Paul Cox. We're talking to Paul about his time at Notts County and how his granddad ordered him to sign for Notts because, whisper it quietly, Paul grew up as a Forest fan on the Trent End Terraces, but his granddad was very much the patriarch of the family and issued a 3-line family whip. So he ended up signing for Notts and never looking back. And he'll also be sort of talking through the runners and riders for us in terms of this promotion running. He obviously got Mansfield promoted out of this division. And one of the very interesting points, we'll come to you, Beth, first, that Paul talks about a lot, was he said at Mansfield, you kind of have to, in his view, you have to psychologically accept where you are. Clearly, fans find that very difficult to do. And that they will always expect, in the case of Mansfield, they should always be a Football League club. We're on loan to the National League. We should be straight back up there. But Paul's approach very much was said, you have to accept we are where we are because we deserve to be. And when you can come to terms with that, maybe you can do something about it. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think we can sort of draw a likeness a little bit with Notts. I think you'll get many fans saying we, as a club and as a history and the quality of players, we shouldn't be where we are now. But like you said, you, despite what you think, you still have to psychologically accept where we are to order to build on what we're doing. We have to accept we are where we are. The playoffs is where we need to go. And you need to sit down and look at what needs to be done and how to get there, rather than living in a world at that point doesn't exist. We're not in the league at this point. So I completely understand, because I myself, for a very long time, especially the first half of the season, I was very stuck on, well, we'll get up. We don't deserve to be here. And I think it's accepting that and understanding that actually our results are the reason we're here. And that playoff loss last season is why we're here. So things happen for a reason. Football's not black and white. It's a tough old game. And whether you think we deserve to be somewhere else or not, same as Mansfield, it does differ to what actually the reality is.
Thoughts on the psychology of it all from Paul there, Stal?
Yeah, of course. You've got to get your head around it. I agree with Beth. Exactly that. You look at the league table and you've got Sutton sitting pretty at the top. Little old Sutton. And it looks very much like they're going to make their way into the league, just like Barrow and Harrogate did last season. And you look at the teams behind them with the league experience: Torquay, Stockport, Hartlepool, Wrexham, Notts, Chesterfield, Halifax. Plenty of league experience behind them, but Sutton are sat top of it. And there's plenty of clubs that have gone down there. You've got no divine right to get back up. It's really difficult to get back up, as we all know. So you have to get your mentality right. You have to attack it properly, go about it the right way. You are where you are in the Football League because of what's happened on the pitch. It doesn't lie. You don't get relegated, unless it's a financial thing. But from Notts' perspective, it hasn't been. So we are there because we haven't been good enough on the pitch. Doesn't matter about the quality of the fans, the history of the club, ownership, all that sort of stuff, the stuff that goes on outside of it. We're there because we haven't been good enough, or that's where we deserve to be, given what's happened on the pitch. And then each league table, each season as it goes by, you end up exactly where you deserve to be. You know, we're fighting to get in the playoffs, as are a number of other teams that will all tell you about their league history, how they're too big for the National League, how they should be higher up, and they'll have hard luck stories. It counts for nothing. The players have got to go on the pitch and perform, and that's the only way you get out of this division. Yeah,
it's very interesting because having done the interview with Paul, and you sit down and think about it, clearly I and 99.9% of our fan base will even now not have come to terms with the fact that Notts are in the National League, and by that you expect us to be doing better than we are, but there is no right to that, you know. And sometimes we get carried away with the players that we've got, you know. If you know the real harsh reality of it all, you know, the reason the players are playing for Notts County in 99.9% of all cases is because they can't get a club. They can't get a club in the Football League. You know, because I know of very few footballers who would prefer to take a contract in the National League than the Football League. I know sometimes there can be financial considerations with some players, but I think if you look at the group of players that we've got at the minute, we've got these players because they haven't been able to get a club in the Football League. And I suppose that kind of tells you where we are as a club. That said, Stell, over 4,000 fans will be in Meadow Lane on Saturday.
Yeah.
How important is that to the team?
It's vital. I've said all the way through this that it's been sort of make-believe football. It's been a shadow of itself. The game hasn't been anything like, because the game's all about, Beth will tell you exactly the same. You want people there, you want atmosphere, you want them moments, you want the buzz of playing in front of people. Especially at Meadow Lane, you talk about getting your mentality right. The echoing nature of hearing players, hearing the calling, the shouting, the moaning at the ref, hearing it all echoing around an empty Meadow Lane just emphasises just how empty it all is, how hollow it all is, and players won't be used to that. You know, these aren't players that have been used to playing in front of 30, 40,000, but they are used to playing in front of a good few thousand, and to have them back on Saturday will be absolutely massive. I expect them to win the game anyway, but I think with fans cheering and getting behind them, then hopefully they can perform exactly as they have done and get the job done and take that form into the playoffs. But having fans back, it's a godsend. We hope this season finishes with success, obviously, but just having them back just shows that we're close to having a normal future in the world as well as football.
Beth, will you be playing or will you be down the lane?
I'll be there. I've got my tickets. I'm so excited. It's been so long coming. I think every single fan will say the same after the torrid year that everybody's had. It's the one thing, I think, especially in people's lives, where football is a huge factor of how you feel. The same with me. This is something that we've been looking forward to for a very, very long time. Obviously, I'm predicting a big win like everybody else is, and I think it's the best game that we could have had for the home fans back, to be honest with you. I think the adrenaline from the players, I can see it now. I'm almost emotional thinking about it, but I think it'll be the perfect day, to be honest.
Yes, I think we're all looking forward to it immensely. I've somehow booked a seat. I'm normally a Pavis man because I'm old now. I'm on the very back row of the Kop, I think, hanging off the edge of the Kop. But I'm not going to try and change the ticket. I'm just happy to be in there. And of course, everything has now been sold as it stands, so that's great. An emotional David Skinner, he's put it in capitals as if to make it more important, not come to terms with being in the National League, exclamation mark. I haven't come to terms that we're not playing in Tier 2. And I forget what the TV drama series detective is. Mother of God, he says. Dean Gollin says, we've never done a full season in the National League yet. Sure as hell feels like it, Dean. Ian Burchnall, I got my ticket and feel like I have a golden Wonka ticket. Moddy Moby, I cannot wait to be back at the lane. How I miss the atmosphere. I had a wheelbarrow, the wheel fell off, blah, 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 blah. Before then, of course, Wrexham. Let's wrap up. Thank you very much for all your time tonight. I was going to ask you for predictions, but of course you've already done them. But I think we would all agree, Stel, it's massively pivotal. If I've done my maths right, were we to win tomorrow and win on Saturday against Weymouth, we would then go into Saturday's game against Weymouth knowing that if we won that one, we would be assured of a playoff berth, irrespective of the Bromley result. Is that correct?
Yeah, if we win the next two, we're in the playoffs. Yeah. So, there's the carrot. There is the carrot, I'm sure, for the players. Yeah.
Beth?
I've got down a win-win anyway. So should we do that? I have every confidence in him anyway. I'm absolutely positive. We've said it from the start, haven't we? That we believe that the players have got it in and they're absolutely pulling it out of the bag at the right time. Buzzing for the Weymouth game. I think a big win, away win against Wrexham. I'm excited for it all. I'm very, very positive.
Because the irony is, for someone like a Ruben Rodrigues, Stel, Eli Sam, if he's involved, they would never have played a league game in front of a crowd, will they, in England?
No, and then that's it. It's things like that. You sort of think
about. Ilkeston, Ruben played a little bit, I think, and I think Eli played a bit at Ilkeston, which was theoretically limited at 300. Although it sure as hell felt like there were 300 in the bar, let alone 300 in the ground. But it will be completely new territory for them.
Of course, and hopefully it'll bring a little bit extra out of you with this, especially with it just being home fans at all these games as well. There's no away fans barracking you or anything like that. Fans not having been there for so long, they're going to be in unbelievably good spirits, more so that, dare I say it, than Notts v Weymouth had it had just been an AN or the league game. So it's going to be a great atmosphere, and hope that can raise the performance even more, if that's even possible after the other day. It brings its pressure, of course it does. We're all saying, oh, how easy Weymouth is, it's a formality. No game is, but they're going to have 4,500 there cheering them on, feel like 20,000, given that they're not played in front of fans for so long. So it's going to be a fantastic day, and with the right result, hopefully that is the day that we seal the playoff place.
It'd be great to think, Beth, it could be another carnival occasion. I think I'm right in saying the last time we played at home, we beat Eastleigh 3-4, when it was the highest crowd for a football match in Western Europe that weekend. Because while the National League were working out whether to allow fans in or not, everybody else had stopped fans going in. I remember being stopped by a load of national newspaper journalists who were all there because our crowd was the biggest in Western Europe that weekend.
I remember reading about it on Twitter and things. Absolutely incredible to think how long ago that was as well. And like Mark said, I think to the players, it's going to feel at least triple the crowd size. I think due to noise anyway. We've had so long without being able to cheer. It's going to be noisy as anything. I think it's going to really, really spur the players on. I can't even get the words out. I'm not excited about it.
Mr. Skinner's clearly having problems accepting we are in a football league. He is saying that this is not a league game. I think he's referring to a football league. Last time I heard, the National League is a league of football. So we'll have to disagree, David. And I hope you've got your ticket and are going along there, even though, according to you, it's not a league game. Lee Brearley, we better wish him a happy wedding day in Portugal next week for my honeymoon. Hope I get good Wi-Fi to tune in. My brackets, hope you're allowed to tune in. Eh? Would you have been allowed to tune into the football on your honeymoon, Stel?
Yeah, good luck for that. Yeah, I thought you was going to say, hope I get a good wife. but I'm sure he is. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, very good.
Wi-Fi. Yes, yeah, that's it. Not what the youngsters are calling their missus these days, is it? No. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, good luck to him, and hopefully he's celebrating now. Not only his wedding, per se.
Stel, Beth, thank you ever so much indeed for your time, as always, for the show. Get your passport ready, Stel. Have a safe journey over to Wrexham. I don't know which way you normally go. I always found when I was heading over there in years ago with Peterborough, if you went to Stoke and cut over like a little back road round the back of Stoke, you could actually get to Wrexham quite quickly. Whereas if you went round Manchester and God knows where, it seemed to take a ruddy eternity.
Yeah, no, we're going the Stoke way. Yeah, so yeah, that's fine. We're going in convoy. I'm meeting Charlie. We're going in convoy to make sure we get there at the same time.
Are you not allowed to travel in the same car?
Well, we're not. Oh, actually, I don't know. Tomorrow, with the restrictions being lifted, I'll have to ask him that. I was thinking we're going to like we have been doing, but I'll have to ask him that. I'm not sure. I've not checked. So you get used to these habits now of doing things differently. So yeah, that might save me some petrol.
Beth, are you in the Pavis or the Cop or the Jimmy Cyril on Saturday?
Jimmy Cyril. I'm usually a Derek Pavis. I always have been because I go with my family and things. And I was on there on the dot, and they said I couldn't find any, so I quickly put Jimmy Cyril in, and I got him there. So that's where I am.
Very good, very good. Well, you and I will enjoy listening to Mr. Stallard and Charlie tomorrow from Wrexham, and then we'll all be in the ground. We'll all be in the ground on Saturday, and wouldn't it be great? 2 wins, and we're in the playoffs come 5 o'clock on Saturday evening. Mark, Beth, thank you very much indeed. To all our guests and viewers, thank you. Catch you soon.